Okay, boss, I'm here. Okay, boss, I'm here. I got your call in the Negelwasser. Oh,
Where were you? How come you're late?
God. So there's a lot of things, there was a lot of Dr. Lilt over here, Uncle Evil here, a lot of Varus and mitzvahs on the way. Don't ask.
I may have to get a granola bar and eat.
Uziel, you have good questions.
That's a good
I
question.
mean, look at you. You're making Niemiectige Verbringens over the internet.
You are listening with the Permeable podcast with Uziel Naparstek, where we go deep with people from our childhood. All right, guys. Welcome to the Permeable podcast. We have here the legendary Reuven Russell. You know him from, of course, Agent Emes as Betzalel. For those who are extra into the From videos, you also know him from the Unexpected, the Permeable Man, and also the Vice of Descent. And most recently, he did a film of based on Buster the Ghani, which I heard. I haven't watched it personally, but I've seen the trailer and I've seen information, reviews, which is beautiful. So, welcome, Ruby Russell, to the Pneumius podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start from the beginning. I guess from your background, how you grew up.
By the way, do they call you Uziel, Mr. Naparstek, the Grand Rabbi? What do they call you here on this podcast?
All is good.
Okay, just
All is
making sure.
received.
Okay, so I'm originally from New Haven, Connecticut, and grew up in what they call in America a conservative household. I'm the baby of five children, and my my father, Oliver Shalom, was friendly with Rabbi Moshe Hecht, Oliver Shalom, who
Oh wow.
ran a school in New Haven for decades. And back in the 50s, he brought my oldest brother into the day school uh, when my father didn't have a lot of money and said, I want my kid to have a Jewish education, but I don't have a lot of money. And without missing a beat, the story goes that Rabbi Moshe Hecht told him, you'll pay me what you can when you can. And my father was hooked ever since for 50 years. So I ended up going there myself from nursery through eighth grade. Then I went to public high school, um, went to Carnegie Mellon University undergrad, went to the Yale School of Drama graduate school, graduated there in 89. And it was about then that I started becoming a little bit more observant in my Judaism. It happened a few years earlier when I took a trip to Europe and started visiting all the Jewish communities in Europe and, seeing I think Dachau concentration camp where I went to in right outside of Munich had a
Wow.
tremendous effect on me. And little by little, because I had gone to day school for 10 years, it's not as if I had to learn Aleph Beis all over again, but I started coming back and learning and learning and learning and learning. And yes, it's been a journey now for about close to 40 years.
Wow. Would you say that your experiences um what's how would you put the words in your future life where you are right now? Would you say that it would have been the same if you were always from, as opposed to becoming from? Or would you say
Who
it
knows?
enhances it?
Yeah. Who knows? I have I'm very glad, I see I have five kids and I see them and their peers say, are your parents Balchuvas? Oh yeah, right. I get it. I get it. Your parents are Balchuvas. Yeah. So that's like a whole thing with kids of Balchuvas. Oh, your parents are Balchuvas? Oh, all right. So whatever that means, whatever that vibe is, that's what it is with me and my family. Um, my youngest kid is now 22 years old. And so would it have been different? Probably. But, I really feel blessed and I really, the joke goes, how you doing? Well, I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. Um, but in a sense, I really am because, if you had told me 40 years ago that you're going to be teaching theater, you're going to be directing plays in New York, and you're going to be able to keep Shabbos and Yom Tov and everything and without a prop, I would have said, what are you talking about? Um, and Baruch Hashem, I'm able to do that because I teach at Yeshiva University. I teach it. I'm starting my 20th year now, starting teaching at Stern College for Women, which is the women's division of Yeshiva University. And I directed the plays for the women. They have separate campuses. As you know, the men's campus is uptown in Washington Heights. I directed the women for the first 15 years, and for the last 5 years now, I've been directing the men only in their productions up in Washington Heights. And so in a sense, I'm kind of living the dream. So, and I'm just very grateful to Hashem for that. And I don't rest on any of those laurels. I'm constantly trying to work and better myself and help whoever I can, including people doing podcasts.
Yeah, thank you. How would you trace back to your passion about theater and directing and plays? Was it from your childhood? Was it later on in life?
Well, my father was a stand-up comedian. My dad was a comic. He was a comedian, a Jewish humorist. He and the barometer to know if you're successful at that is, can you support a family with that? Well, um, you know, he he would always say the joke, which was really only a half joke. If you want to be successful in show business, you need two things: talent and a good day job, right? And he had a day job early in his life, but then in the mid 50s, before I was born, he was lucky enough, had the mazel to get a television show, a children's television show in New Haven. And that led to other things and other things and other things. And he really had a career from, the time I was born, at least. He was a comedian, Jewish humorist, and put five kids through college uh, that way. So I do. So again, my mom, may she rest in peace, ran a theatrical costume shop. So she was sort of on the different side of the business, where she would rent and sell theatrical costumes, makeup, and accessories to schools, individuals, and so kind of had a sort of that kind of a rounded view of the business, so to speak. As I mentioned, I'm the baby of five, but I'm really the only one who, um, you know, is walking sort of in the same steps that my father did. When people say to me, "How is it that you got into comedy?" I just tell people I'm just a nice Jewish boy who went into my father's business. Like a lot of other
Yeah.
people. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's what I do. And again, I just feel very blessed that I'm able to continue it.
It's funny that you say that because a lot of times, not just in the entertainment industry, but also like in general, like with people kind of like veer off from what their parents are doing for their jobs or profession, and sometimes they really continue on because they grew up with it, so they gravitate towards it, as opposed to like other people that grew up with it and they go despite it. What do you think? What do you think a part of you what do you think it was that a part of you decided that you wanted to go on your father's steps of doing stand-up comedy on a personal level, besides for the fact that it was your father, you grew up with it? But I'm saying, what would you say, what would you say that draw you to doing stand-up and also entertainment in general?
It was it was getting the laugh. As any comedian will tell you, there's nothing like getting a laugh. There's nothing like telling a joke and working on a joke and delivering a joke and getting a laugh. It's it's infectious.
Yeah.
Uh, and when anybody, I know about anybody, when a lot of people experience success in telling a joke and getting a laugh, they want to tell a second and a third. So I think of all my siblings, it's funny. Our siblings would talk to each other many times and say, we all had different parents. And what do we mean by that? Because um, we saw our parents at different stages of our growing up, and my
Hmm.
stage was probably where my parents were the most successful and the most different than any other stage that my older siblings saw, where
Yeah.
it was more struggling and really working,
Hmm.
where I really saw my father enjoy the fruits of his blessings. And I remember he would take me to the Friars Club in New York, which, you say the Friars Club now, you also have to say Oliver Shalom, because it started off being, just a men's club where men would go, would be men only, and they told jokes that were sometimes off color, this, that, the other. Then in the 80s, they made it both men and women. But my father was on the dais of 7 or 8 from the 60s through the 70s, when they roasted and hosted people like Dick Cavett and Howard Cosell, a lot of stars. So I kind of grew up through that, and I saw a lot of people work. I saw what worked. I saw what didn't work. Um, there was a time I spent a good amount of time with Milton Berle, who shared a birthday with my father. Anybody who knows who Milton Berle was, he was the original, Uncle Milty, the first one who did really comedy on television when televisions first came out in the late 40s. All right. So because my father was friendly with him, I spent time and was able to watch him for a period of my life. Um, I grew up and spent a lot of time in the Catskill Mountains. Again, Catskill Mountains, Oliver Shalom, you have to say, because that there's the area still exists, but it's
Yeah.
now hotels, motels, bungalow colonies,
Yeah, we,
and
we we just went for my family just went for a family reunion, and we went to, I'm forgetting the place was, but it was one of those places in the Catskills in upstate, and it's a huge hotel, tons of rooms and halls and stuff. And but we were finding out that the people that usually went there in the 1900s really don't go there anymore. And ever since then, it went through like 6 different owners, and they're still trying to keep it up. It's like it's changed very differently now.
yeah, well, when I turned 16 and I got my driver's license, I became the resident children's entertainer because I did a lot of clown shows and magic shows for kids. That's how my father started, and my other siblings started. And I did that, and I was the resident children's entertainer at many of the Catskill resorts. Grossinger's, Concord, Kutcher's, Nevele, Tamarack, Homoac, Fallsview, Pines, Browns, just to name a few, right?
Yeah.
And then when I turned 17, 18, I got promoted to what was then called the Tumler, which meant I ran bingo. I would go out on the shuffleboard courts, make sure everybody had water and a towel. Um, and of course, one of the great things about growing up and spending a lot of time at the Catskill Mountains was watching all the great entertainers, the Milton Berles, the Henny Youngmans, the Alan Kings, the Dick Shawns, brilliant, brilliant comedians who I studied. I just studied year after year after year. And so, again, I feel blessed that I was part of that sort of nostalgic era that is kind of no more.
What would you say is the major difference between when you do stand up or when you're doing theater? But I'm asking not the typical difference like, oh, one's comedy and one's acting serious, but I'm asking like the difference that most people wouldn't necessarily catch on.
Well, my first thought is it's like the difference of living by yourself or living with a roommate or two or four. And what I mean by that is, you are pretty much, you are the actor, the director. You are in charge when you're doing stand up for the most part. You need lights here, you need that. You can be in full control of pretty much everything that goes on. When you're in a play, when you're in a film, obviously you're being directed by someone most of the time. There are other actors, there are other places you got to be and stand and make sure the camera's this way and make sure. And so, it's more of a one man show, so to speak, with a stand up where you're in control, where there are many more moving pieces when it comes to a play or a film.
Uh-huh. And would you say that also has to do when it comes to playing on camera?
Yeah, well, it's interesting with camera with film. For anyone who's watched in my opinion, the best children's Jewish video series, The Adventures of Agent Emes, and anybody who's familiar with that knows that it took place in
Spitzberg.
very good, Spitzberg. And so for people who don't know me or haven't met me, I always, and it's still to this day, I get, you're from Pittsburgh, right? No, I'm not from Pittsburgh. Everyone thinks
Yeah.
I'm from Pittsburgh because, there were 15 years of 13 episodes of Spitzberg. So everyone, I was a day worker. Leibel Cohen, who you had on a podcast, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I had him.
Yeah, he was, as you know, he's the brainchild of Agent Emes. So we met, Label and I, summer of '85 at the Ivy League Torah Study Program, which is a program that I believe still exists. It's a great program for students who are, coming back to Yiddishkeit or new to Yiddishkeit a little bit, and where you get paid to sit and learn. It's like a kollel for kids going into Ivy League schools, or not. It's not even always Ivy League school, any other schools, and college kids. So we met there, and so we've been friends now almost 40 years. So
Wow.
it's not that I lived in Pittsburgh or Spitzberg, but he asked me to do that role. So,
But you
um,
you played a film before he did Agent Emes. You played in Advice of Dissent.
correct, which was also directed by him.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the truth of the matter is, when I lived in California for a while. I mean, I've done a lot of theater, film, television. Um, I've sort of done all the different mediums, and Label knew that about me. So it's one of the few parts that I didn't have to audition for, where Label just said, "Here, I have a role for you that I want you to do," and that,
Yeah.
as seasoned actors will tell you, is always nice to get.
But when you originally played on Advice of Dissent, um, was that like a cool moment for you that you saw your friend like, oh wow, he's made it. He's somewhat made it in the doing this thing.
Well, yeah. So first of all, you know, I had a scene and worked with one of the greatest actors ever by the name of Eli Wallach. Um, and
Was he the one that played the Rebbe?
that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Okay.
And I don't know if Label told you how he was able to acquire, Rebecca
Yeah,
Pigeon, another.
yeah, he talked a bit about it. Yeah.
Right. So Rebecca Pigeon, another fine actress that he was able to get. Um, I mean, that was a bit of if you look at those actors now, it was a bit of a star-studded film that he made there. And I was
Yeah.
very grateful to be part of that. And I was just like, way to go, Label. You deserve this.
Yeah.
Label's a very talented guy. As a matter of fact, it was only last week I was on the phone with Label and I said, Label, after um, a television show, or after, something does 13 episodes, or they do 13 seasons, whatever it is, very often they'll do the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for Agent Emes, the movie.
Hmm.
And whatever he has, it is a lot of work. It takes money. It
Yeah.
takes a story. It takes a lot of manpower to do. Although, although back when we started Agent Emmett, which was 1999, and it went through, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2013-ish,
Yeah.
2012,
2013. Yeah.
2013. Um, he had serious equipment that cost a lot of money that he had to have on set, and serious, we have one of these things now that,
Yeah.
believe it or not, people are shooting movies on these things now.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Uh,
they have apps to edit it, and they have apps to do this and do that and do that. Um,
There's a film that's coming out. I always like looking into like behind the scenes of different things and techniques that even like big Hollywood productions like to do. And literally it's a big film and it's was all filmed on iPhones. They came out and said we're
Believe it.
just filming the entire thing in iPhones. It was like, whoa.
And there's going to be more of that as time goes on. You know,
Yeah.
if you can make a big blockbuster film for 5 million instead of 105 million,
It's
a
entertaining.
lot less fundraising you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I have a lot of ideas for the next film. Uh,
Well,
some ideas even for your character actually. I'll talk to you after because I actually want to pitch it to Label eventually. But yeah, um,
okay.
fingers crossed. But
Okay.
yeah. So
The
back to what we
Jews
were
don't
saying.
cross
So,
their fingers. We don't believe in crossing fingers, but go
yeah,
ahead.
that's true. That's true. Thank you for pointing that out. So let's go back to what we were saying that you started out with a Vice of Descent and you realize oh Label's doing something. So at what point was Label like, hey, I'm actually thinking of doing like a from Jewish entertainment for kids video and I want you to be a somewhat of a big part of it.
Well, for me, and again, I guess I'm part of a different generation, but I grew up watching the television version of. So if anybody is familiar with the original television series of um, the commissioner is kind of who I modeled Betzalel off of.
Okay.
The commissioner of, in that TV series, um, where and that whole series, had this flavor to it where they were just a little bit melodramatic and a little bit over
Yeah.
the top, but it was all done with a sense of humor that everybody kind of got, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really indicated, but you kind of felt it underneath all that melodrama,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So that,
Um,
that's what I brought to it, and that's what I think, Label either consciously or subconsciously brought to it as well. And you know, the the best thing about Agent Emes, in my opinion, is that it's not only entertainment, but it's entertainment with Teuchen.
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think each
Yeah.
episode, and that's why the parents like it. The
Mm-hmm.
parents they can put their kids in front of something, and it's not just stam. I'm not saying other stuff is direct, but I'm saying, people appreciate Teuchen, where there's a
Right.
little bit of meaning involved.
Your
Um,
point is that basically, like some things nowadays that typically are like considered like more kosher, and like not less like the superhero stuff, and it's more like stuff like just like entertainment for kids. But why parents like HMS over that, even though technically it shouldn't, is because of the fact that there's no teichen in that, but HMS has like deep concepts of Hasidus and Tanya, like and all these things, and it's like
yeah.
that's how you
and
get the
so
parents.
and so beautifully written. I mean, and this is all to Label's credit. All the
Yep.
Label's credit. He was able to bring out these ideas in such a cool way for kids, um, and that was a big reason that got me so invested and committed to the material because,
Yeah.
I believed in it so much. Still do.
Yeah.
I,
And
I I walk down Kingston Avenue sometimes, still today, and parents will come up to me and they'll say, I just want to thank you for all the years of babysitting that you provided for my kids. I go, let's go, $16 an hour. Let's make a cheshbon. Let's go. Let's go. It's time. Another guy just stopped me recently. He said, wait a minute. I never knew what you looked like. He said, because I'd be playing the DVDs and I'd be driving. The kids would be watching it in the back. I would hear your voice, but I wouldn't know what you looked like.
yeah.
Well, now he knows
Uh
what I look like.
I I started out by getting a ride by to school. I work in LEC in the school, and I would used to before I got a car, I would take rides with a family that also worked there. And literally, the mother's like, I don't know what they're watching, but I know the sound design. I know when to go high and low. I know when like the most annoying beats are coming in. Like, yeah, like
Yep. Yep.
yeah. But back to what you were saying, how much like resonated this Agent Emes was is that A big example that I like to bring up about Tanya, like how Leibel was able to put these concepts into it, was the fourth one, where if you remember, it was about the one where basically, it would explain the Alter Rebbe was talking about how every person's emotions apply with different elements of the world, and the idea that like fire, water, and earth, and air. Oh wait, am I missing one? Fire, air, water, fire, and earth. Oh yeah, yeah. And basically, the idea was that like Spitzer was being hit by Dr. Lotov with a potion and in their drinks. But what's interesting is that I remember being so young and understanding those concepts. And the funniest thing is that when you try to teach Tanya from that, like from those words, when it talks the exact same thing, and you try to bring it up to a kid, just like telling it simply, it's not the same. It's
You're
just not the
saying
same.
Tanya, you're saying Tanya teachers should say to their kids, for a better explanation, go watch episode 4 of Agent Emes.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but my main point is that what's interesting is that Label was able to put it in such a way where even if like the kids understood it, but the longevity of kids understanding it throughout their lives just lasted more because of simply how he wrote it.
Well, you're talking about teaching now, aren't you? And I'm a big fan of Josh Gordon, Oliver Shalom, and I watch his Chumash, his Tanya, and he says numerous times that if you want to know what a good teacher is, uh, see the 4-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old get up and talk about the Parsha at the Shabbos table or talk about a Hasidic concept, and they can get up and they can explain it.
Oh.
You look at them and they go, wow, they have a good teacher. If you can explain it to a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old and they can come home and explain it, that is the measure of a good teacher. And it's I mean, even Tanya talks about teaching, and there are
Hmm.
basics in Hasidus that talk about the student teacher relationship, right? The classic example, if Einstein were to walk into a fourth grade math class who never heard about fractions and it was their first day learning about fractions, well, if Einstein gave them everything they knew, they wouldn't get a thing, right?
Right.
The idea is, how do you contract what Einstein knows down to a fourth grade level to first understand what a fraction is? And that's what makes a good teacher. It's one of the things that makes a good teacher anyway. And I think Label was able to do that so beautifully uh, in really all 13 episodes.
Yeah. One of the challenges that you had as Betzalel is that a lot of times you had those moments in the videos where you would talk about these concepts. For you, was it just like you're acting out the scenes, you're saying what is written, or would you try to put a lot of more like emotion or try to use your own words? Like, what was the process of from paper to you saying these things, especially the monologue parts?
Well, I think like whether it's film or whether it's a play on stage, um, there's a story being told. And the idea is, you have to know what story is being told, number one. Number two, what are the ideas being communicated? And if the actor has a good handle on what the ideas that are being communicated, what the story is being told, then you can almost go completely off book and just paraphrase um, and communicate those ideas and tell that story. Label's also a great writer. He had great ideas and he was able to write it really well. So, um, the great actor Laurence Olivier said that the better the writing, the less work the actor has to do, right? And yeah, when you're in something that the writing isn't so good, the actor has to work a bit harder to pull it off, to make it good.
Yeah.
But the writing was really very good here. The ideas behind the writing, of course, you know, um, don't get much better. And when you're working with material like that, it just made me look good.
Um, and so you're saying it was very easy for you to just spit out like monologues of lines, and but it became so much ease because of the writing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're with film, obviously you can cut and paste. You know,
Right.
when a play starts at 8 o'clock at night, you go with one intermission, till 10 or 10:30, whatever it is, and you can't really stop and say, let's do this again, please.
Yeah.
But of course, you do take after take if you need to with a film, and I guess I'm trying to think like this podcast is sort of a combination of both, where we're doing it live. We're not stopping and cutting and pasting, I don't think. I don't know if you edit this afterwards, but it sort of is what it is here. And there's something, that's one of the things that makes theater so exciting is that there's that immediate connection with the actors on stage and the audience. It's happening right in front of you. With film, the story is being told with film more by the cut, by the edit. That's what's sort of driving it, as
Yeah.
opposed to it's really more about the words with a play that's what's driving the story forward there.
Let's talk a little about Betzalel because it's funny because we got so much screen time with Betzalel. Like he is the only character that I believe I correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the only character that is in every single episode. But at the
I've
same time, what was put on screen is what we got, meaning we don't know much of his backstory or his where he comes from or whatever. Was there any talk about that with Label, or was it
well
just like
that's
just playing it on the screen?
that's one of the interesting things is that, you keep things mysterious, and
Hmm.
you keep people questioning and guessing. Um that
But
was
I'm
one
saying
of
for you
the
yourself, was there any talk behind the scenes about it?
um not too deeply. I was pretty much Agent Emmett's boss. Obviously, Agent Emmet was in every episode also, but obviously there were three different ones over 14 years.
Yeah.
Um, but and by the way, I always like to mention that in the episode where I drink where Agent Emmet drinks a potion, um, excuse me, where I drink a potion, where Betzalel drinks
Yeah,
a
and you got
potion
younger.
and shrink, that the younger version is my son Alexander, who's now married with
Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
kids.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. So um, I always like mentioning that. But um,
But
look,
that one is actually my favorite episode because I think like I didn't really think about this much when I was younger, but now that I think about it, because I like making films and stuff and like writing, and also character work is my favorite part of it. And what I like about it is that like you got six, no, you got seven straight episodes of Betzalel being the boss, and then well, actually 5 episodes of Betzalel just being the boss, and then with Yisrael Schaller playing the character of Uri, like the second Agent MS, you got a little bit solid, like being hands on a little bit, but you didn't really get much. So it kind of like broke the continuity, lack of a better word, the continuity of what the character would be. They're like, oh wait, like Pizzala is as much of a main character as like Agent Emes in this episode. Like you're actually kind of getting more screen time. You're getting to get to know him a little more. So it was kind of like nice to like break away from like, oh, typical like boss gives you a mission, do it perfect, and but you kind of like got more like out of Betzalel, and so that was great.
sounds like you're preparing like a whole college thesis on this, and this is going to be your doctorate papers, for your PhD.
I interviewed an Israeli actor that played in one of those videos that was translated to English for from the film community. But basically, I was like, "What would you say like you prepared yourself for that act?" He's like, "We filmed that in like 3 days. I didn't really much think about it. I just like played it. Like I was like, oh wow." So I realized like there is a lot of like to myself putting myself a lot into these things, like overthinking it kind of, but at the same time, like it is true. Like Betzalel's best episode, in my opinion, was number 8.
Yeah. Um, you never know how an audience is going to react. One of the beauties of entertaining in general, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether it's a film, or whether it's a play on stage, is that um, when it's good material, everybody finds something personal in it for them. They recognize something in what they're seeing in their own life. And
Yeah.
since everybody is different, everybody reacts a little bit differently. And that's kind of that's kind of the beauty of that's one of the things I really like about this is that um, you know, some people find jokes very funny, others find it less funny. Other people find certain scenes moving and
Yeah.
effective, and others don't. But again, I always go back to the sort of objective and the purpose of what Label was doing here to bring these Hasidic concepts to
Yeah.
kids in a fun and entertaining way. And I think he did it brilliantly.
You were one of the few actors that actually spent a lot of time with the Agent MS character, or at least with kids that are playing. Was it very much like, hey, these are kids that are acting, so I'm playing with them? Or did you end up kind of like coaching them a little bit? Did you find yourself like helping them out in the acting?
I don't know if you see it on YouTube. There's a place where you can watch bloopers um,
Yeah, on the
of
DVDs, yeah.
some of the episodes, or they're on the DVDs themselves. And I know there's one in particular where I was having a little bit of um, trouble with one of the boys playing Agent Emes, and
It
you
happened
look at it
multiple
now.
times, but yeah.
You look at it now and it's funny, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just had fun with it. I just really had fun with it. Um, it was it was sort of easy for me to do because again, um, I didn't have to do a lot of you know deep thinking about it. Again, the writing was clear, the objective was pretty clear, um, so Label made it easy for me.
Yeah. Um, do you do you remember like the differences between the Asian emissaries when it came to playing, or were they just like kids playing and it was kind of the same?
You're saying that the difference between the three of them?
Yeah. Well, there's really
Um,
four, but three characters. It's kind of confusing.
correct. I'm sort of partial to the original one.
Oh, really?
However, I must say that I think all of them sort of followed in the shoes of the one previous,
Yeah,
right?
it's
I
very
don't think
true.
anyone tried to, break through with any new character choices or anything like that. They were all pretty good though.
Yeah. I always say, like, I even told this to Label, like, if you would ask me, like, what's your favorite Agent MS? And I would say like it was pretty hard because Shimmy is like the original, so you kind of have like a bias to that. But then the second one, Uri, you kind of got to like a lot of background, like you saw him from starting off as not as Agent MS, and then you saw his transition, and you kind of got more character. Label kind of got pretty dark sometimes with that character. So it's like there's like perks to each one of them.
So Zeal, it seems like you are a Bucky on this, and it sounds like you've maybe binged this a few times, all 13 episodes,
Oh, multiple times.
or
Uh,
certainly the people watching over you allowed you free reign on all episodes.
I'm an independent, so no, I grew up in a family of nine, and very much so that there was a certain point where all my siblings went to yeshiva or to seminaries or got married, and so and the only the two siblings I had were older sisters, so it's not like you're hanging out with them as much as you would with brothers, and so I always found myself kind of on the medium of making videos and watching videos. But it's interesting because when I look back at it, it's not like just kids. Like sometimes I watch kids watch videos also. It's like, oh, they're just watching because it's a screen. I would say for me personally, it was because it's probably started out like that because every kid is gonna probably watch videos at the end of the day. But for me, it was just like I kind of was very observant, both in Yiddishkeit, but also just observant in like just what's going on in these videos. Even though, yes, I watched them multiple times because I remember we had the first three episodes on VHS, and when they broke or when we didn't have the machine anymore, I would tell my parents, "Get the DVDs, get the DVDs." My parents were like, "But you saw this multiple times." Like, "No, I still need to see it." But yeah, I was very much that like my parents that like I would always watch it, and I was always watching also the behind the scenes and the credits. Like I was very much like grasping it all. And I think that's what came up to me like enjoying film in general. Like I remember writing and like characters and like I think I just go back to that, the fact that I grasping every detail that I could think of.
And when ask somebody who grew up, in a theatrical family like myself,
Yeah.
loving the theater
Continue,
and
continue talking. I just have to charge my computer, but I'm listening.
okay. When you talk to somebody like me who grew up that way, I think I've always wanted this notion of entertainment with toichen, right? That's something that you didn't find a lot and really still don't find a lot. But I studied with um, someone who has been called one of the greatest acting teachers of our time, and her name was Stella Adler, a Jew who was the daughter of Jacob and Sarah Adler, the famous actors of the Yiddish theater of Second Avenue and turn of the century, and the 20th century, not the 21st century.
Yeah.
And you know, she very much came from this perspective of what you do on the stage needs to be important, that there's a truth. And, if I may say so, I credit my becoming frum to really making the step to be more observant in my Yiddishkeit to Stella Adler. Why? Because here was an acting teacher in New York, very famous acting teacher, and she was demanding the truth from her students,
Yeah.
demanding the truth from her students. So if you wanted to get up and do a monologue or do a scene with another actor, if you
Hmm.
weren't truthful in that scene, she would interrupt you. She would stop you. She would say, "Sweetheart, get off the stage, go sit down, and let's talk about it." So if you wanted to get through a scene, if you wanted to get through a monologue, you knew that you had to be prepared. You had to come prepared and be on your game, so to speak, and be as truthful as
Hmm.
possible. She would say things like, the stage is a place where you cannot lie. You can't lie. You need to tell the truth.
Yeah.
She says, if you want to see people lie, go out on the street and start saying, "Oh, hi, how are you? Oh, hi, nice to see you. Hi, hi, nice to see you." But on the stage, you have to tell the truth. And
Hmm.
that got me thinking as, a young person in my 20s saying, well, wow. So there's this idea called the truth on the stage. I wonder, is there anything like that in real life? Is there a truth with a capital T in real life? And that was my step by step coming back, not Aleph Bays, obviously. I knew how to read with my 10 years at New Haven Hebrew Day School, but that's what really got me more observant in my Yiddishkeit. And now it's, a lifelong journey of how do I combine the two?
Right. And it's funny you saying that because I hear that all the time with actors, and like the same thing, how they were taught or how they learned to have acting. But the one thing that I also say is that now more than ever, and we see that both in personal lives and outside lives on the internet, in general, the culture and politics, whatever in general, people are looking for authenticity. And people are looking for and people are getting less and less oblivious and gullible, especially when it comes to when people are watching entertainment or listening to entertainment. And so you have to be truthful. And it's funny because I also interviewed the guy who played Uncle Evil, and he also said, like, even for Uncle Evil, there's something in you that you could bring to the character to at least put some authenticity to it so that even people that are not going to say like, "Oh, Uncle Evil's so cool," but at least you could say like, "I get it somewhat."
I'm looking around me. I have a feeling that you're secretly getting the whole cast here, and that we're all going to be on the same in the same room together. Or something. It'll be one of these 25-year reunions or something like that, like you say.
Oh, I would love to host a panel like that. I've run by ideas with Label, but yeah. Um, so what would you say was the hardest to shoot? For those who don't know, to shoot means to film. What was the hardest things to film, whether it was for acting reasons or just for production reasons in Agent Emes?
Well, with a film, the hardest stuff is usually stuff that is technically difficult. The acting, I would not say, again, if the writing is good, the less work the actor has to do. But when you have to hit your mark and face this way because the camera's doing this, and then we're going up on the tower because that's where Uncle Evil, and you have to hit your mark, so to speak, with a film more than you do
Yeah.
with theater, and it may not seem quite as organic because you're starting and stopping and starting and reshooting and reshooting. So you need to sort of try to keep the same energy level so that when they cut two pieces together, it doesn't look like you're a high energy, one energy level now, and then it cuts to the other side where it doesn't jive, so to speak, together. So you always have to be aware of what's this going to look like with the cut, with the edit. And I think that's probably the toughest thing as far as film compared to, live.
Was there a specific day or scene that was the most difficult that you can remember?
Um, we worked a lot with a what's called a green screen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if Label talked about that, but that's a little strange, especially I had never worked with one before at the time. And, you're in a room where, everything behind you on the floor, it's all green. And you know that that's not going to be seen,
Hmm.
and certain things are being done for special effects using green screen technology. Now they have it down to a science where it's incredible. But I would say that when we did this in the early 2000s, green screen was still kind
New.
of new,
Yeah.
kind of new. And so that took a certain you had to be adept at how to do, and this, your head turned this way versus this way could make a whole difference on what the
Oh yeah.
final look is like. So
Yeah.
um, the green screen was kind of tough, but once you're locked into here's what you got to do, you can't look this way on that line. You have to look this way on that line, otherwise we blow the line. You know,
Yeah.
so just technical stuff like that. But I think you say I did all 13 episodes. Um, I still love Label, and I keep nudging him that we got to do a movie. I, I
Hmm.
jokingly say let's do another 13 episodes. Uh, but I really think I don't know if I wouldn't say it's undervalued, but I really think he had something there, and it's like a little nugget that he
Hmm.
had there that
Yeah.
still stands up. It still stands up where kids can
Yeah.
look at it and hop an idea.
And also, I bet that if we look into pre-production, like when you're preparing for the film, there's a lot of shortcuts that you could do because technology has advanced so much. Like the one things he discussed was the differences between Advice of Descent and Agent MS. One major difference was the editing, because how it used to be is that you have to edit by projecting it into another film and putting it together, cutting films together, strips, whatever. For those who are not talking, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of technical things where you have to like film a camera into a camera into a camera, and that was the only way to put things together. But then Agent MS came the Apple and digitally
And now you can you
programs.
can you can edit right on here, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And So there's a lot of ideas I have for that, but that again, I'll tell you later. There's a lot of things I want to pitch to Label. What would you say was the what do you have a favorite episode?
I do like the one where I was working with my then very young Alexander, who turns into the younger version of me. I
So
think
yeah,
that's
I
one of my
actually have a
favorites.
question about that. Were you on set when they filmed his scenes?
Sure.
So,
How do you
so
think he
you were
got?
there.
How do you think he got there?
It's true. Label did also mention that it was in the summer, but so were you like coaching him at all, or would you
A little
did you let him
bit.
just like play with it?
A little bit, I let Label do it, and Alexander, he was watching me, and so again, he wasn't asked to do anything that was completely out of the realm of understanding. It was pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. I also remember, was that the episode that we worked with Rabbi Torsky, Oliver Shalom?
No,
Um,
the one with Rabatorski was the number four,
right.
where it was the
See,
giant.
you know better than I do, but when you ask me about a favorite, or he was really a joy to work with as well. Um,
Yeah,
to
I wanted to also ask you about that. Yeah.
see somebody like Rabbi Twersky take an appreciation of what Label was doing with this whole thing, and then
Yeah.
committing to that on film, take after take after take, because it's one thing to say, hey, this is a great idea, okay, I'll be a part of it and shoot it, but then with Label, I say, okay, cut, now we have to shoot it again and do the same thing, cut, now we have
Yeah.
to do the same thing from a different angle, cut, now it becomes, and he really was terrific working with, and
And
very grateful that I was.
it's so interesting you saying that because a lot of the conversation that I had with Label was a lot of the struggles that he had picking up Asian MS in the From Entertainment, like in it, and when it came to like finding the money for it, and organizations say, okay, fine, we'll give you some money for it, but you have to do it this way. And he's like, I can't, so I'll find my own way. And like for the first episodes, people were saying like, oh, like how can you have like this kind of concept? Now it's more accepted, Baruch Hashem, but like, and so now you're saying that is actually pretty cool. The fact that Robert Torski was involved in it that much.
Yeah. Look, if Label or anyone for that matter decided to make, the Froome version of the next Mission Impossible, I have a
Yeah.
feeling that uh, people would be begging to be investors of such a project.
Hmm.
Um, you know, action, you know, um, to the point of being, crazy, almost unrealistic, has always
Yeah.
been a big seller, I think, in the Jewish community, right? Because it was sort of kosher to go to such a type of a film, maybe still is. Um,
Right.
Again, Label was a trailblazer here and still is. What other? I'm not saying there's no other, because I don't know every single thing that's out there, and I have seen some funny things that are good, but Label was certainly the first to make um, a children's video with serious teichen.
Hmm.
And when that serious teichen is veiled in stuff that's just appealing to kids,
Yeah.
that was the brilliance of it.
Right.
That's what kept me coming back for 13 episodes.
And the fact that he had a lot of trust in kids understanding the Teichen and kids accepting the whole new genre that he was introducing in the From Entertainment, like Bichlal, like the amount of the seriousness that he put into the work is very tremendous.
I uh I had nothing to do with the flying hat. As far as far as I know, that was
But you
completely.
definitely dodge it a few times, thank God.
Yep, yep. And it's the way it was able to, like a
A
boy, I'm
frisbee.
getting all. No, not a frisbee. What's that thing that you throw and it comes
Oh,
back to you?
boomerang.
A boomerang. Thank you. The way it was able to boomerang back, right? We had some special effects there, but I can't tell you how many hats have been thrown at me when I walk into a room by kids who think they're hilarious. Whoop, you know, and
You probably
parents
have
who
like
come
the
up.
tatis like
Well, yeah,
putting their
Tatis come
hats
up to me.
down.
They say thanks a lot. You know how many new hats I've had to buy because my kids think it's funny to throw their hats around the house?
I gotta say I was guilty of that too, by the way. Yeah, but I bet you like you walk in the show and people like a bunch of Tatis are like, you know.
It didn't
um
come back. You see, I don't even know how to do it. It didn't come back.
it's funny. What's funny about this whole discussion about like how revolutionary Agent Emes was is that the fact that so many things changed in the From Entertainment after the fact that we finished all those 13 episodes. And it's like I truly credit the progressive way of how people make from series from entertainment for kids and for adults is credit to the series of H&MS. I truly say it that.
I think that's great. I think, you may be right there. It was also the whole timing of it was a time when iPhones and technology, I mean, we're still going through some sort of a technological revolution, but
Hmm.
obviously it's when we went from, CDs, DVDs, boom, streaming. I mean, how long did CDs last? Um,
Right. Yeah.
things were happening so quickly. I keep saying to myself, now that we're digital, what's next?
Right.
What's next? I don't know.
You probably know this for sure, but like what the label said, the first things that he did when the internet first came out is make a website with Shiurim, and he had people say Shiurim, and it's like now that whole world has exploded. You know, it's like
Yeah,
it's crazy how far we gotten.
yeah. I mean, look at Chabad.org.
Yeah,
What Jew, regardless of background, doesn't go there for information?
yeah. It's the number one visited Jewish website in the world. It's a fact. Statistically,
Yeah.
also. Um, but I would love to touch a lot about your most recent film that you did, where you did with Basigani. How did that come about, and how's the reception after it's out and stuff?
You see, the thing with actors is they get a lot of the credit for something when really, all the credit that I get for Agent Emes, really, it's about Leibel Cohen.
Yeah.
Um, all the credit that I may get for the Bussy Lagani video, um, I mean, Ben Siobson, again, he's the brainchild there. And he knows how to take a beautiful shot. He knows how to pick a beautiful location. He knows how to light it really well.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you're seeing, um, you know, is really credit to him. I go in. Now it's interesting. This particular project was a little bit less scripted. There was a basic script, but unlike most scripts, there was uh, a lot of room for leeway of,
Yeah.
trying this, pausing here, saying it this way, saying it that way, trying this line. Um, and, you know, I I didn't know. I went and saw a production of The World Is My Garden. I went up to Mequon, Wisconsin, because I don't know, have you seen what, besides the 1 minute trailer, have you seen what the whole piece is, what the whole production is?
I wish I would have seen it. I'm probably gonna somewhat react to it on my channel. I would love to do that also. So I've always
So
pushed it off because I always wanted to do that. But yeah.
it includes a live uh, string quartet that's playing Nigunim on stage,
Oh wow.
and interspersed with that are pieces of the film that Benzi shot. And um, of course, there's narration. I do most of the narration there and a lot of the talking.
Yeah.
Um, it's I had no idea when I was filming it. I certainly had, more than anything I've done, I had no clue really what the final piece was going to look like until I actually saw it, because, you know, I would put on a pair of overalls over here and just be watering a field on a farm
Yeah.
and petting some sheep and doing this and then writing a letter, and the narration was sort of the only thing I really had to hold on to understand, okay, where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? um, the scenes in the synagogue were done at Orchard Street Shul, the great classic landmark in New Haven that we spoke about Moshe Hecht earlier, who was the
Yeah,
rabbi
yeah.
there for decades, and now his grandson Mendy is the rabbi there. Um, it was shot in there, which is a big, beautiful shul. Um, but it's funny with this particular project, I had no idea. I knew that the little snippets we were doing in different locations were all, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. But how it was all going to come together with the music and the live string quartet and the interspersion, I did not get full realization of until I saw it and went to it in Mequon. And it's funny. I went there and I went because I wanted to see it. I was obviously interested in seeing it, and I ended up doing a little Q&A afterwards, which was cute. Um, talking about similar things that we're talking about here, but um, that project was, and I think it's really beautifully shot and beautifully done, and I've heard only good things from shluchim and people who have taken it. Um, What's interesting about that project is it's very unique. There's really nothing out there like it that
Hmm.
um, is really, and again, we get back to this idea of entertainment with Teuchen.
Hmm.
How do you how do you hold people's attention, entertain
Yeah,
them, involve them in something going on up there, and where they walk away and they go, wow, that was beautiful. That was something.
yeah,
Um, and Ben Siobson does it beautifully with his piece.
yeah. I'm definitely gonna check it out in the future on the channel. I would love to do like a live stream or a reaction video, but yeah, definitely I want to watch it. Um, what would you say is because it's very much like you said, it's very much like a pickup shots and narration type of video. Based on what you're saying, it's not necessarily like the entire thing is acted out and everything. So what you have to do is a lot of shots that there's no dialogue. You were simply doing actions and watering and petting, like you said, petting the sheep, walking in the farm. Would you say there's as much effort as an actor in those type of shots where you're not saying anything as much as when you do say something?
Um, I think it's this idea of you have to concentrate a 10-second shot where the camera is, like this, right? So the camera's like this
Right.
on my face, and I know that one blink is going to be much more significant than if I'm blinking, on stage in front of 100 people telling jokes. That if I
Mm-hmm.
move my head wherever the camera is, that's really kind of the difference between film acting and regular, where there's more precision involved.
Yeah.
Um, and again, when you're in good hands, you can trust those hands and say, hey, I don't know exactly where we're going with this, but I trust the intentions here, and it feels like it's good. I have no clue how it's going to
Yeah.
be all put together, but it feels good, and it certainly came out, something not only good, just very unique. It's just very unique that I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Would you say that you had that similar experience with Agent Emes when it came to the final product and you see it on screen? It's like, oh wow. Aside for the fact that the audience's reactions, but like you personally
Well,
seeing the final cut and stuff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but the audience's reaction, actors have egos, I'm still working on that. It's a lifelong mission, but when people tell you, you know, how much they love it, especially for
Hmm.
their kids, you know, um, it's gratifying. You feel like you're doing something. Hey, it's not just shtus here. It's you know, and it's this whole idea of, how do I was brought up, like I said, when I studied with Stella Adler, I was reading plays and doing plays from playwrights like, Arthur Miller, um, you know, um, Eugene O'Neill, Harold Pinter, Chekhov, Ibsen, playwrights that wrote about ideas. And, as an actor, when you're able to really voice these ideas and then do it in a Jewish way, when you're talking about real, eternal ideas, then that's the combination that I've always been going for. And I've been very fortunate with these projects.
Yeah. What would you say, um, when you approach these projects, is there something similar? Is there some common denominator that, by the way, I learned that those two were common denominator from Betzalel.
Well,
Just like because you always said, "What's the common denominator between these? What's going on?" So I learned that from from Betzalel. Um,
okay.
but yeah, as I was saying, what would you say is the common denominator that of all the roles or projects that you do is something that you put into your roles uniquely, as opposed to like other actors when they put in their roles? What would you say something that you yourself do?
I try to find what's important. I try to find what's truthful about what it is I'm doing. Is there teichen here? Is there something that I can really express? Can I express what the author is trying to do, whether it be the filmmaker, whether it be the writer, and as the actor, can I help the author, right? That's what actors do in regular plays, right? They're trying to express the ideas of the author. Um, well, when someone like Leibel or Bensi now takes these Hasidic ideas and puts them through, um, wow, what an opportunity that can be for somebody. And
Yeah.
if you can pull that off and make all the pieces work, that's the whole idea of transformation, right? Hisavcha,
Yeah.
right? It's the whole idea of the Rebbe telling people not to lock yourself in a room necessarily your whole life, and learn, but take your talents and use them in a glatt kosher way.
Yeah. It's true.
And
It's
that's
very true.
been that's been my sort of lifelong mission. And I can't thank Hashem enough for continuing to give me opportunities like these to do exactly that. I feel that
Um,
even my teaching, my day-to-day teaching,
yeah.
um, you know, um, anybody who's a teacher will tell you the similarity between teaching and performing, right?
Yeah.
Um, that you have to put on a certain aura sometimes in order to really fulfill your objective, which is making your kids understand or making your kids think or act differently about certain things. That the whole teacher student thing, what makes a good teacher? And, it's why many good teachers, think about the good teachers you've had in your life. Um, they typically felt that what they were doing was important, and people recognize that. People recognize that.
Hmm.
So, I teach public speaking and I also direct theater and at YU. So I'm dealing with by day women only who public speaking is a course that's a required course to graduate. Um, and a lot of times students walk in on day one and they do not want to be there,
Hmm.
right? Public speaking, no way, no thank you.
Right.
But by the end of the course, we make it fun. We show, I try to show, the importance and the opportunities that, being able to communicate effectively can provide.
Hmm.
And look, um, this very podcast that you're doing right now, you're trying to put out in the world things that are important, you know,
Hmm.
that have toichen. So kol hakavod to you.
Thank you.
And that's one of the things that keeps me moving.
Right. I would like to end off with one more project that you were involved in with Label, The Unexpected, The Probable Man, uh, which it's a very interesting concept, funny concept when I try to describe the video to people, like, oh, this guy could go walk through things because he asked Hashem and for a bracha and everything, and people go like, what is this film? But I think it you very what I loved about it is that you carried the film very much with the acting and the sincerity in this really bizarre, wacko idea of a film. You know what I'm saying? Even though it is Label's writing and directing, but I feel like when it comes to a main actor, and especially when the main actor is that focus of all that weirdness that happens in a film, it's a lot to put onto yourself as an actor.
So first, just so your audience knows what you're talking about, it's called the Permeable Man, and it's
Permeable,
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 permeable, right? Which
permeable.
means which means you're able to go through, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Impermeable would means you can't go through it. Permeable means it can be gone through.
yeah.
Um, and that was my condition, right? In
Right,
that
yeah, yeah.
film that I became permeable, and I couldn't hold anything because it would go through me, right?
Right, exactly.
Um, and again, look, call it science fiction, call it it was a very interesting idea, and again, a film that had Teuchen.
Yeah, but what I love about the film is that it has a lot of deep concepts all at once. It had the concept of the father with his family. It had the concept of a man on a day-to-day job. It had the concept of a man going through a weird sickness, being strange to the world. It's like a lot of deep concepts if you really think about it.
I cannot talk about this film without mentioning the best performance in the film, in my opinion, of my daughter Malka,
Yeah.
who plays the little
Oh,
girl
that
at
was
the
so
end.
good.
And she has this whole scene where she breaks down crying. And I'm looking at this and I'm watching her.
Oh yeah, for people
Not
to
only does
know
she,
that your family was your actually real family in the film.
yes,
Yeah.
and not only does she give a brilliant performance, but like we were talking about before, when you're doing a film, you have to do take after take after take and get
Yeah.
different angles and do it again and do it again.
Oh, and she
And
had to do that again and again.
she hit her mark every single time as 11 or 12-year-old kid. And I'm saying, well, I don't know where she gets her talent from. No, but
But
if anybody is able to see it and look at that scene, um, it's it's as good as any professional actor you see on the screen today.
hmm yeah, very
And
true.
she's sort of a bit of a star in the music world today, singing. Look up her name, Malka Russell. She's between Instagram and YouTube, which I don't know these things so well, but she's quite popular on social media there.
But it was it's very interesting because you're coming from the first five episodes of Agent Emes with Leibel Cohen with the action film, like like hyped up and like kids and superhero and like also the sense of humor that you brought to Betzalel and everything. And then you come down to this film, which is like very there's a lot of depth and a lot of character work and it's very deep concepts and it's also like down down to earth. That's what it is. Down to earth writing, and it's
Uziel, are
such.
you shocked that I can do something with depth?
No, I'm not at all. But no, but I'm saying
No,
I just
I hear
wanted to
you.
ask. Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, what was that for you dealing with projects with Label Cohen that dealt with one way, and then you all of a sudden had to do another film where it's a whole different atmosphere.
Well, when you're working with talented people, right? Talent has many sides to it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, again, it all goes back to the story and the ideas.
Hmm.
What's the story you're telling? What are the ideas you're communicating? And if everybody is on the same page and clear about that, and when those ideas are real and you mentioned the word authentic, when they have their roots in Yiddishkeit, in Hasidus, in Torah, then it becomes easy. Then there's no problem committing to such ideas because um, you're dealing with the truth, right? It's like going back
Yeah.
to my old actor days when I would do an Arthur Miller play, and you have to play a soldier or someone who's just come out of the Marines, and he has this monologue about how his fellow soldier gave him his last pair of dry socks, and he's talking about how unbelievable these guys were on the battlefield. There's a truth to that. But now when you know are expressing truth with a capital T, as I say, with Torah ideas, Hasidus, et cetera, it's easy and you can just fully commit without any hesitation. And that's what I always, these are the projects that I love.
And I encourage everyone to watch it. Like it's a very like if anyone's like dealing with any problems or just if anyone's interested in the idea of a person, lack of a better word, being burnt out in life or like the idea of like leaving your life robotically, watch that video, like watch that film. It's a great message and I love it and it is great. Um,
It's called
thank you so
the permeable man,
The
just so
Permeable
everybody
Man.
hears that. Yeah, the permeable man.
Yeah, The Permeable Man. Um, by the way, if to get off that before we get off that subject, that was a film that you acted 101 with Label also.
That's right.
Yeah. How was that like?
Okay. Oh, well, um, I think you could even go on YouTube and see the trailer for The Permeable Man, and it shows that opening scene with me and Label, and we have a sort of a banter back and forth, and it's sort of comedic. We're telling a little joke here and there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
back and forth to each other. Um, I mean, I love Label. I just spoke to him last week. I was in Wilkes-Barre, where my daughter-in-law now lives, and his son Mendy was there. And so when I saw Mendy there, we said, all right, let's get your father on the phone. And, you know, um,
Which you acted with
I,
Mendy too.
that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you. I mean, you interviewed Label. I haven't watched that podcast, but he's a very talented guy. He's a very humble
Hmm.
guy.
Yeah,
I
very
don't
much
know
so.
if he knows how talented he is.
Yeah,
And
sometimes he just passes it by when he would talk about it. Yeah, he was just like,
I keep wanting to smack him and say, Label, let's go. Let's go. You
yeah,
can, you can do this. So.
yeah. Hashtag how we need to come with a hashtag. Hashtag revive Agent Emes.
Or hashtag Agent Emes the movie.
The
Yeah.
movie. Yeah. Um that we are running out of time, but I do want to end off with saying a thank you to you for being a part of my childhood in such a way, and also the fact that I like to thank you that the fact that also you acted and took these projects very seriously, and I saw that on screen, and it really resonated with me as a person that wants to make the entertainment and film and act and direct, and so I just wanted to say a personal thank you. I'm sure a lot of
Oh,
people
you're welcome.
who are listening are saying thank you to for all you've done. Also, I also want to end off with if you're able to plug in your Bussy Lagani film also for those who don't know about it and where they could see it.
Um, The World is My Garden. Well, you'll see the trailer on YouTube.
Yeah,
I think the only place you can see the actual full production, like I said, is because, it's really a production that includes a string quartet playing nigunim on stage live.
yeah,
Maybe Benzi Obson will one day film a production of it wherever it's being
yeah,
presented. But right now, I believe only the trailer exists. And of course, Shluchim or anybody else for that matter can hire, the entire production, so to speak, where you get the full the full videos, along with an Ugunim and um, I saw it in Mequon. I mean, the audience was just they didn't love it. They couldn't love it enough. So I would just say that if anybody's out there wondering, like, what's it about? I don't get it. Will it be over their heads? Um, talk to Ben Ziavton about it, and I think it'll be well worth an evening of anything that you might be able to do at a Chabad house. So
All right. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back in the near or far future. This was great, and there's so much I'd like to talk about, and
well,
obviously this is a great
it sounds like
conversation.
you're right. It sounds like you're writing maybe the next film or something like that. So maybe we'll talk about your film.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it after, when we finish the podcast.
Absolutely.
There's so much I have to learn. All right. So thank you so much for joining the podcast, and hopefully to see you again.
Thank you, Uziel. Be well.
Everyone, tune in for every Thursday for another episode of the PBS Podcast, and also tune in for all our reactions and reviews. Every Sunday, our reactions, and every day, our reviews, and every Tuesday, our live streams. It's really a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you guys to enjoy it, and also for the upcoming episodes every Thursday on YouTube and on Spotify. Can't wait to see you guys again, and I'll see you next time.